Alright, so on today's assignment, you're asked to write an equation for the cubic function. Now, in the book, they ask you for the form, like the 1 over b form. I'm going to stick with the a form and then show you the ones that are easy to convert to 1 over b, I will. But I'm going to stick on all four problems. I'm going to start with this equation, okay? I think it's easier to follow than the other one, but I'll show you how to convert it to 1 over b at the end. Okay, so the point of inflection or inflection point is the one in the middle, always. So this point right here. Okay, the coordinates are given to you, -2, -3. So the point of inflection, -2, -3, is your h and k, always. Okay, and then you have two other points, which are your x and y points. Well, you have a choice. You could choose the one on the top or the one on the bottom. I will choose this one, just because. And that will be my 1, -2 point. That's going to be my x and my y. So if I look at my equation over here on the right, f of x equation, notice how I have a value for every single variable except for a. Because remember, f of x is actually y. So y equals, I'll write it with a y. So when I do the substitution, it's easier for you guys to see. So for y, I'm going to replace that with a -2. A, I don't know yet. That's what I'm trying to figure out. X, I'm going to replace that with a 1. Whoops, not that comma, sorry. Minus h is a -2. Cubed plus a -3 for k. And again, I got those values that I plugged in, that I substituted from here, which I got from the graph up here. Okay? So now it's just a matter of simplifying and solving for a. So I'm going to go ahead and simplify what's in the parentheses right here. So bring down the -2, the a, and then 1 minus a -2 is 3. 3 cubed is 27. Okay, now remember your order of operations. We are not going to subtract 3 from 27. We're going to add 3 to both sides. And so that gives me 1. And we usually write the variable at the end, so it's 27 instead of a27. So I'm going to divide by 27. And there's my a value. So a equals 1 over 27. So my function, my cubic function, I'm going to write f of x equals 1 over 27, which means that there was a vertical compression by a factor of 1/27. Okay, so this graph up here that you see has a vertical compression. Okay, so then we have, what is it, x minus h would be minus a -2, which is plus 2, cubed, and then minus 3. Okay. So that's the function with a. Now, notice that it says in the above, next to the 14, it says 1 over b. Well, what's a cube root of 27, or 1/27th? So the cube root of 27 we know is 3. So I can convert this equation to this. Notice where the 1/3 goes. It goes inside. And then it's going to be cubed minus 3. So when you see it this way, you say that the function has a horizontal stretch by a factor of 3. So a horizontal stretch by a factor of 3. So when you see it this way, it has a horizontal stretch by a factor of 3. Looking at it like the way I solved it first, it has a vertical compression by a factor of 1/27. So both equations represent the same graph, the same picture. The one on the left uses A, the one on the right uses B, or 1 over B. Okay? Alright, so 15, they do want you to use the A value, to use a parameter A instead of the 1 over B. So first thing we're going to do is identify our HK, our inflection point right here, 1, 4. So 1, 4 is our inflection point. So that's our H and K. And then you choose one of the other two, 0, 7 or 2, 1. Now I can use any point on the graph, but I'm going to use the ones they marked because they're integers, right? That way I don't have to deal with fractions or decimals. So either 0, 7 or 2, 1. I'll just use 0, 7. So I'm going to use 0, 7 for my x and my y. Okay, come on up to the right side and let's see. We're going to replace the g of x with y. And solve for a. So the y is 7. And again, remember, I'm looking at the information down here. So the y is 7. The x is 0. The h is 1 cubed, and the k is 4. So bring down the 7. 0 minus 1 is negative 1. When you cube it, it's still negative 1. So it's negative a plus 4. So I'm going to subtract 4. So 3 equals negative a. So that means if 3 equals negative a, that means that negative 3 is positive a, right? So that's my a value. So my answer is going to be, oops, not f of x, but g of x equals negative 3 x minus 1 cubed plus 4. And that's it for that one. Alright, 16, notice that they want you to use the 1 over b, but I'm going to start off with a. I'm going to find the a, and then from there I could switch it over to 1 over b like I did last time on number 14. So let's go to the graph and identify our points. So I know that the point in the middle of look at the 3 dots on the graph, the one in the middle, that's my inflection point. So that's this one right here. The coordinates for that one are 2, negative 1. So that's my h and my k. So remember, the point of inflection, the one in the middle, is your hk. And then I pick one of the other 2 points for my xy. I'm going to use that one. So that's going to be 1.50, and that's my x and my y. Okay. So going over to the equation, remember g of x is y. And now I'm going to substitute. So for y, I'm going to replace that with a 0. For a, that's what I'm trying to figure out. For x, that's 1.5. For h, that's 2 cubed. And then for k, that's negative 1. So we simplify inside the parentheses and we get 1.5 minus 2 is negative 1/2. Okay? So negative 1/2 to the 3rd power, because I'm not going to keep it as 0.5, I'm going to say negative 1/2 to the 3rd power is negative 1/8, because it's 1/2 times 1/2 times, well, negative 1/2 times negative 1/2 times negative 1/2. It's negative 1/8. Okay, so here a positive and a negative, that's a negative. I'm going to add 1. And remember, a times negative 1/8 is the same as negative 1/8 a. So in order to solve for a, I've got to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of negative 1/8. So that is, I'll squeeze it in here, negative 8 over 1. And negative 8 times 1. So then negative 8 equals a. Okay, so you write your function. I'll put it here on the left side. G of x equals negative 8 times x minus 2 cubed minus 1. Now, since this one they want you to write it in 1 over b, I'm going to write it over here on this side. What is the cubed root of negative 8? Or we could just say cube root of 8. The cube root of 8 is 2. So I'm going to write g of x equals, I'll keep the negative out here, and then 2, because the cube root of 8 is 2, x minus 2 cubed minus 1. So this equation, the first one that I wrote, and this one represent the same exact picture, the same exact graph. Except when I see it here on the left side, I could say that this is a vertical stretch by a factor of 8. The negative in front of the 8 just tells me that it reflects over the x-axis, which you could see right here how the graph is coming from, it's coming down from the left, coming down. So I can see that it was reflected over the x-axis. And then the equation on the right says, because the 2 is inside the brackets and it's being cubed, so I know that it's the 1 over b. This one's a horizontal compression by a factor of 1/2. Because remember that number there, if you see a 2, it's actually the reciprocal of 2, so it's 1/2. Okay? Okay, number 17, our inflection point. Again, you look at the 3 points that are marked, and it's the one in the middle. So negative 1, 2 is my inflection point. So that's my H and my K. And then I pick one of the other ones. I'll say this one right here. 0, 2.5. That's my X and Y. Okay, so go back to the equation G of X. G of X is Y. So for Y, I'm going to replace that with 2.5. We don't know A yet. My X is 0. H is negative 1 cubed, and then K is 2. So when you simplify the parentheses, this is 0 plus 1, so 1 cubed is 1. So this is 2, and then, so let me subtract the 2. So then 2.5 minus 2 is 1/2, or 0.5. And then we had A times 1, so that's A. So A is 1/2. So you would write G of X equals 1/2 X plus 1, because it's minus a negative 1, cubed, plus 2. So if you were to describe this in words, you would say that this graph has a vertical compression by a factor of 1/2, and it translates to the left 1 unit and up 2 units.